Imagine a world where the notion of ruling over others simply because of the land beneath their feet is a relic of the past. This vision, enshrined in the philosophy of rational law, also known as verarchy, insists on a fundamental shift in how we view authority, property, and personal rights. At its core, rational law dismantles the long-standing tradition of territorial jurisdiction. No longer can individuals, groups, or institutions claim the right to govern people merely due to geographic boundaries or the ownership of land. Instead, every person becomes the undisputed master of their own property, free to choose who is welcome and under what circumstances, but never permitted to assert dominion over another's life simply by virtue of land ownership. For centuries, the framework of nations, states, provinces, cities, and even homeowners associations has been built upon the bedrock of territorial rule. These structures derive their power from the presumption that being within certain lines on a map subjects individuals to the authority of those who claim to govern that space. This presumption is what rational law sets out to abolish. The principle of terra nullius imperium, meaning no rule over land, demands that control over people can never be justified by control over territory. The very idea that land ownership could somehow confer the power to rule others is to be abandoned entirely. Under this vision, the world would be transformed. There would be no more nations leveraging their territorial claims to tax, regulate, or otherwise command obedience from those within their borders. Tribes, kingdoms, states, and cities all would relinquish their jurisdiction, as would neighborhood associations and similar bodies. The only legitimate authority a person has on their property is to extend or withdraw an invitation to others, and even this is bounded by respect for the inviolable rights of those invited. Consider the implications for private property. If you own a home, you are free to decide who may enter and for how long. However, your authority over guests ends at the boundary of their fundamental rights. You cannot require them to surrender their ability to defend themselves or to record interactions for their own accountability. These are not privileges you bestow or withhold. They are inherent rights that persist regardless of location. To invite someone onto your property is to accept their rights as part of the transaction, not to impose your will upon them. This approach also renders obsolete the institution of the Homeowners Association, or HOA. In the current system, HOAs often wield power over residents, dictating the minutiae of daily life and holding the threat of property loss over any who dissent. Consent, in this context, is not freely given, but extracted under duress, tethering your right to live in your own home to compliance with collective rules. Rational law recognizes this for what it is, an unacceptable encroachment on individual autonomy, and so HOAs, like all other forms of territorial rule, must be consigned to history. Nations, too, are revealed as little more than vast HOAs, extracting perpetual tribute and imposing burdensome regulations under the guise of collective good. Their agendas are often opaque, their demands unending. Rational law calls for the dissolution of these arrangements, restoring to every individual the full measure of control over their own life and property, unmediated by artificial borders or collective authority. In this new paradigm, the world would be a tapestry of freely interacting individuals, each sovereign within their own domain but never lording over others. The bonds of community would be forged by genuine consent, not by accident of geography. The end of territorial rule signals the beginning of a society grounded in respect for personal liberty, where rights are not bartered or constrained by land, but recognized as universal and untouchable.